to cross over on Highway 16 coming out of Lincoln County going up towards the Newton area. So this is moving pretty quickly. I got the speed at around 37 miles per hour. So in the town of Catawba and then over towards Conover, not too far from Claremont, which unfortunately was an area hit by a tornado earlier this year in January. So this is heading just to the east of Claremont. If it continues to push northeast, it's going to be on the west side of Statesville, so heading towards the airport area, up there basically near the area where the Carolina Balloon Festival takes place on the west side of Statesville. That would be the area that we're watching. Now, I do want to tell you there's also other severe thunderstorm warnings out there for damaging wind. So if you're in an area where there is a severe thunderstorm warning, I'd want you to stay inside and stay in the middle of the house as well, because of the potential we could see some tree branches come down across the area. Not really hearing any reports of damage in that area. I've been checking with our spotters up in that vicinity. The good news so far is there's no reports of damage in that vicinity. So this is likely just a tornado indicated rotation, not touching the ground. And I have some confidence that it's not likely near the ground right now based on the views we had initially when it was on the view from our camera. And just to give you some perspective, our camera, I'm gonna grab our cursor here. Our camera was right here in the northern part of Gaston County looking north. The reason we can't see it is all this rain right here around Lincolnton now is blocking our view, but we had a pretty good view of it earlier, and I could see a lowering base, certainly had my attention, and I actually zoomed in to see if we could see anything touching near the ground, and we did not. So the good news is we did not have anything touching the ground. Looks like we just had a tornado watch issued for our area as well. And remember, the watch means conditions are favorable for tornadoes to form in this area. That watch is currently in effect until 11 p.m. tonight, but trust me, it's probably not going to be up that long because once this area moves out, we're likely going to see it canceled. So that's the tornado watch, and we'll update this in real time as you're watching. That tornado watch just issued for the Piedmont of the Carolinas is up until 11 p.m. tonight. So we'll update that. The one to the north is up till 9 o'clock. That's the one in parts of West Virginia, Virginia, into eastern Kentucky. So we'll zoom in on this and kind of show you, there's the counties under the tornado watch until 11 p.m. But what's going to happen, and I can tell you exactly what we'll see happen tonight, is once this line moves through, they'll start canceling the watch out as it all pushes off to the northeast. So the good news is this will likely not stay up all evening long, even though it's up till 11 o'clock tonight. Most of the risk today has been straight line winds, but this is an instance where we do have at least a couple chances for a quick spin up tornado, especially as this main line. And we'll go back to the radar here. I'll show you what I'm talking about. As this line, which is pretty much moving in right now, and it's really on time compared to what we thought earlier. We thought it'd be between about 5 and 8 p.m. As this line moves through, that will be it for the severe weather risk. Once it passes north and east, we'll likely see the risk come to an end. So again, the area of concern is right here. The rotation is crossing Highway 16 right now, heading towards the east side of Claremont and the town of Catawba. On the Catawba, Iredell County line. So that's the area we're referring to right now, pushing off to the north and east. Good news, I'm checking with all our spotters here, no confirmation of any damage, anything on the ground currently. Everything I'm seeing is clearly elevated just off the ground. So we're not seeing anything near the ground. And in fact, the rotation is starting to weaken as I'm talking to you. So good news, the rotation is continuing to weaken here slowly but surely. And we might actually see this warning get canceled earlier, guys.
I think so. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. I was just going to ask about the flood threat because earlier Watauga actually put out about 5 minutes ago that several low-lying bridges in the county are at flood stage. That was at 6:42. So are you worried about that happening in other counties potentially?
Not likely, because we're seeing the rain move in so quickly and out so quickly that we're probably not going to see much of a flooding. But anytime you get a thunderstorm like this, you're going to get a really brief burst of heavy rain. And we do have a flood advisory for Watauga County. So not surprised we got a couple of bridges that are probably being overrun by some water. A couple things I want to look at is we look at the rotation here. We're not seeing a lot of rotation in this line as we were earlier. The area that they were warning for has crossed over Highway 16 and is now heading towards Catawba. So If this continues to weaken, you might see the warning canceled early, but it is up until 6:30, which is, roughly about 20 minutes from now. That's a pretty long time for the warning to be up. You might see it either whittled away or canceled completely. But we'll see if it cycles. Sometimes these storms will go through a cycle where the storm will weaken briefly, and then the circulation will re-intensify. And when that happens, you'll see right in there, that's the circulation we're watching pushing off in this direction. So if you're in Statesville and really even Turnersburg up towards Union Grove, Love Valley area, these areas up in here, you need to be paying attention and be weather aware here for the next 45 minutes or so, because this storm will likely continue to push northeast. The tornado warning might go away, but the severe thunderstorm warnings will likely be continued with this, mainly because of the strong winds. And now remember, most of our central part of our viewing area is under a tornado watch till 11. Not going to stay up till 11, because once this line moves through, we'll likely see it canceled early. But just know that means ingredients are there for possible rotation and tornadoes within the cell. I know we got some video and pictures coming in from some of our great viewers and spotters out there. Thanks a lot to Matt Prater for this one. You could see his little time lapse here. You can see broad rotation in that cell. That's from Blacksburg. Now, this is where the storm began, and you can actually see the counterclockwise spin. So that's what we call a mesocyclone. So that's a rotating updraft. That's kind of the precursors to where we watch for the possibility of a tornado. But that whole storm is rotating, and that's the ingredient that we're looking for when we see a tornado watch. That means the conditions are favorable for tornadoes to form, and when you're seeing storms doing that, you certainly got that potential for more rotation. Now, I will tell you, there are other storms out there now moving into Mecklenburg County. These are not severe right now, but potentially as we go through the next hour, we could see these become severe, because I look in York County right now, and in York County, we do have some pretty strong winds. Now, the negative sign is indication of the direction. It's away from it's actually towards the radar in this case. So we're seeing some really strong rotation. So we just had a tornado warning in a different part of the state. So if you hear that going off in the background, and I'll show you real quickly.
Wow.
That tornado warning, which is up to the north. So that's just out of our viewing area, but that's in Wilkes County. So for folks that are watching online, that is a new tornado warning up in Wilkes County until 7:15. So you heard that kind of go off from my computer there. That's why that was going off. So 2 tornado warnings to our north. And this was kind of the area we were concerned about yesterday, that if we were going to see severe storms, they would be just to the north or maybe northeast of Charlotte. And that's kind of where these are going. So areas north and along Interstate 40, for the next couple of hours, at least through sunset, which is close to 8 o'clock, we're going to have the potential for these storms to possibly spin up a tornado.
Well, and Brad, I know you talk to your spotters a lot. I think some good news, too, as we look for evidence on the ground. Briefly, I know you pinpointed Highway 16 east of Maiden for a few minutes. I saw some really big slowdowns, and those are actually lifting at this point. It's almost like folks in the area were seeing something and were slowing down. But now it looks like traffic is getting back to normal. And it also looks like Duke Energy is not reporting any outages in that Maiden area.
And those are good kind of indicators of whether or not we've got damage. I look at that quite a bit. We look for power outages and then roads actually being blocked or stopped by trees or debris. So these are the kind of pictures we're getting in. Thank you so much for sending these via X. You got some low clouds here. This was right around Maiden. So that is actually, Casey, that is great, because that is exactly the lowering I saw from our Dallas camera, that little appendage. It looked like a funnel cloud was trying to form. It never really got its act together, but again, that's what the rotation on radar is showing. It's showing that low levels. And the radar can't see all the way to the ground. Remember, there are limitations to radar. It doesn't see everything. So oftentimes the radar is looking at the mid-levels of the storm, the rotation there, and you have to just kind of envision that the tornado is below that. That's why spotters and folks like you are so valuable to us, because those eyes on the ground and actually cameras can help us tell if that's actually connecting to the ground and producing a tornado. But again, 2 tornado warnings currently in our area. One is in our viewing area, one is just out, but I know we have a lot of viewers in Wilkes County because our signal's strong up there. You're watching online. Sometimes there aren't boundaries anymore to our TV signals, and obviously with the digital age, there's not. So there is a tornado warning as well for Wilkes County till 7:15. It kind of shows you our warning till 7:30 was issued earlier. The new warning is actually shorter in duration, because that's likely an indication that these are spinning up quickly and then dissipating very quickly. If I look at the rotation from all these, I'm going to flip the rotation here up towards Wilkes County just to take a look at that, because the one in our area, I'm not seeing much rotation in it. So we'll look up in Wilkes County. It's right there around North Wilkesboro. So just north of North Wilkesboro, not too far from the Speedway, southeast of Mulberry. There's clearly rotation on radar there. So that's why that warning was issued. Right there is where the rotation is in Wilkes County. So if you have friends or family in Wilkes County, you're going to want to go ahead and call them as well and say, hey, we've got a tornado warning in this area. Go ahead, get to that lowest level of your house, away from your interior walls and windows. Many people are eating dinner, probably not have the TV on. Maybe their phone just went off and they're wondering what's happening. Go ahead and tell them that, this is the place you need to shelter right now until the warning is lifted or until we give you the all clear. Trust me, we will tell you when the coast is clear. We do a pretty good job of giving the all clear from severe. Remember what you need to do in a severe thunderstorm warning that's got strong winds, or in this case, a tornado warning. Seek shelter in that middle of your house, the lowest level possible. The thing you want to do is put as many walls and windows between you and the outside. So this diagram shows you a really good location. An interior room that has no windows is ideal. This is going to put barriers between you and the outside. The thing that makes tornadoes dangerous, I know we think all about the wind. It's what the wind picks up and throws at you. That's what's dangerous in tornadoes. So the more things that you can have between you and the outside to block those debris or the missiles, the better off. So the walls protect you from that. And above you, ceilings and the roof protects you as well. So that interior room is great. And I'll tell you, even though this is our tornado safety tip, it's also in very strong winds. You want to go to that interior room as well, maybe an interior hallway, get away from the windows or the outside walls just in case a tree branch or some other debris. The most dangerous thing in this is collapsing stuff on you or debris being thrown at you. So the more protection you can do, cover your head. Got a helmet, skateboard, bike, hard hat, football, any kind of helmet. The same thing that protects your head from falls will protect you from flying debris. Please put it on your head and head to that shelter location. We'll give you the all clear. But if you're in Wilkes County, central Wilkes County, southeastern part of Catawba, and the west central part of Iredell County, we want you to take these precautions seriously right now. Go back to the radar real quickly just to show you what's happening here as we kind of reevaluate the signatures on radar. Right now, it does look like this storm has been kind of absorbed by another one. In some cases, that could be a bad thing. In this case, it might be a good thing because it'll shut off the inflow and maybe cut off the tornado inflow to that storm. So right around Catawba, and we're losing our radar beam right there. So the radar beam is being blocked. So this is kind of one of those no man's land for radar signatures, because Catawba is an area where the radar is being blocked by a communication tower. You can actually see that big slice missing. So there's no data there. So we're just going to assume that there's rotation continuing. And this is about to cross over the Catawba River into western Iredell County. So this is continuing to move to the northeast around 40, I would say 40 miles per hour. Let me look at updated speed just to give you an idea. I'm going to base this completely off of radar data, and it's about 36 miles per hour. So we're getting some new video in. This is live video, okay. Where's this from, guys? So this is Alexander County. So we're in between. This is a good location because we're kind of in between both storms. So thank you to Central Alexander County for this view. You can see that's their downtown right there. This is not too far from the fire station, which is just down to the left screen, left on the screen here. Where they do the Apple Festival up there. Great Christmas parade in downtown Taylorsville, there in Alexander County. So you're looking at some lowering off to the west. That's an area where, we've got some small rotation, not as strong as to the east, but that's definitely a pretty low cloud there looking off towards the west. So as we widen it back to the radar, I'm going to widen this out because if you're in Charlotte, you're running, what's going on? We got tornado warnings to the north. What's happening down this way? Well, we do have some strong storms moving into our area, but these are a little bit weaker. Now again, once this line moves through, we should be in the clear, but let's check the rotation on these. So far, just some gusty winds, nothing too severe with these. We're not seeing any warnings so far, but this is moving into an environment where the sun came out today. That was what we did not want to see, the sun come out. And that happened for about 2 hours here right before sunset. And that is what has prompted us to get these tornado warnings. So looking at a lot of low rains. The thing about low rains, I'm getting pictures. We really appreciate all the pictures you're sending in. The key part of any of this is you've got to see rotation within the cell. So make sure that there's rotation. Just the lowering of the cloud is not necessarily as dangerous. So there's another warning for this cell just outside of our area. This is just for Surrey, Wilkes, and Yadkin County. So just to our north, you're seeing the tornado warnings pop up. And I would expect we're going to see more warnings up in this general vicinity, just to give you an idea. I think right in here, this area through the evening will probably be the area where we're going to see the highest risk for a tornadic storm here over the next, I'd say, 2 hours or so. Here we are at 7 o'clock, coming up at the top of the hour. So through about 9 o'clock, sunset's coming up here in about 53 minutes. So until the sun goes down and we start seeing some cooling taking place, which is going to take about an hour after sunset completely, we're going to see that risk for at least an isolated tornado. Down to the south, the storm's moving over Charlotte into the upstate. So far, non-severe, but beware, stay weather aware. They could pop up any second now and produce damaging winds and an isolated tornado.
Interesting stuff. Still watching the outage map with Duke Energy. Nothing has spiked just yet in Catawba County or back in Watauga, which is where this storm came from. Been scouring X as well. We ask you sometimes when it is safe to do so, right, to find that near me section on our WCNC mobile app, which is how we're getting these pictures and video, which really helps Brad tell the story and to see what we're seeing out there in real life.
Of course, be safe, right? We don't want you going out into danger to try to get these pictures or video, but if it is a safe scenario, we'd love to see what you are seeing. I know, Brad, you had talked about the potential of what could come, what areas we're concerned about as we head through the rest of the evening. We know this tornado watch has been issued until 11 p.m. and it looks like it's covering 10 counties, including Mecklenburg, Gaston, Cabarrus, Catawba, Iredell, Rowan, Union in North Carolina, Lincoln, Alexander, and Davie. I mean, do you think that that timeline is a pretty generous timeline?
Yeah, I think that's really generous because this is not going to go to 11 o'clock, guys. I'll be completely honest. This is really the next 2 hours. So between now and 9 o'clock. And the reason the watch is issued for such a long period of time, and thanks, Vanessa, for calling those counties out. This is the watch. And notice it starts from Charlotte, but it goes all the way up to Central Virginia. So the way you got to interpret this, and the way I would interpret any kind of watch like this, if the storms are moving in from the southwest and the watch is up until 11 o'clock, they expect that the storms will be up to the northern part of that watch by 11 o'clock. The southern part of the watch is where they are right now. So it's kind of a time, it's basically giving you a time. This is where they are right now. It's 7 o'clock. By 8 o'clock, they could be here. By 9 o'clock, they'll be here, and then up here, 10 o'clock, and then at the very least, they'll be up into Central Virginia by 11. So what will happen is they'll start canceling out these counties back to the south as we go through the evening. And notice there's not very many counties in our area. There's only a handful. This is a pretty small watch box, and what that tells me is what we're seeing with the radar. It's basically just for this line of storms. And let's go to the radar real quickly. I'll show you. It's this line. Once it moves through, that's it, the backside of this. So if I were to do it all clear from severe, it would be once this line kind of moves out completely. And actually, once we get closer to sunset as well, we should see things calm down. So yes, there is a watch up for this time period, but it'll be over in our area much, much quicker than that.
And I-40 is already slowing down, which is where that storm is right now, Brad, right?
Yeah. And so, the other thing to remember about these storms, even if there's not a tornado, there's really heavy rain. Yeah. And so these roads are slowing down probably because the visibility is going to like zero.
Yeah, it's at a yellow. It's at a yellow right now between Statesville and Conover, but it's starting to get worse.
Yeah, and so I mean, this is blinding rain. Just looking at the radar returns, you're probably seeing 1 inch and 2 inches per hour. Now it's not raining for a whole hour, but that's the rainfall rate. That's happening in about 15, 20 minutes.
Right.
So you're going to see some really heavy rain, and that will definitely slow you down and cause some slowing delays on the roads. The other thing to remember is, just slow down. When the visibility is reduced, you can't see. I mean, it looks like heavy rain. There could be a tornado wrapped in there. The road could be covered in debris. So slow down, make sure your lights are on, make sure your wipers are working. Don't use your hazards when you're driving unless you're actually stopped and there is a hazard or you pull over, because that can distract drivers as well. So make sure if you're worried at all, just pull over to the side and put those hazards on and wait it out. And please don't stop under overpasses. That's something, a bad practice that a lot of people do. That will actually cause traffic to back up, could cause accidents, and doesn't allow emergency vehicles to get by. So just clear out of the way and try to stay out of the way of these storms until they move through. The best thing you do is just pull over, wait till the rain to let up, and then keep driving, guys.
Yeah. Well, as you were talking, it seems like there is a traffic collision on West I-40 in Statesville, North Carolina, which could be that rain that you were talking about, just the deluge that they're seeing along I-40 and in Iredell and close to Rowan County here in a little bit.
Now we're seeing actually in our preview, so this isn't on the television at this point, but we're getting a look in the Kannapolis area. We know the Cannonballers have a game.
Yeah.
I think it started about 30 minutes ago. Those clouds are dark.
Yeah.
They're out there.
There's activity. Yeah, there are folks out there out on the field. So I'm wondering if they're going to be watching this closely. I sure hope they are.
I mean, it looks like some action's being taken as we're kind of looking at this, or maybe the other team is switching sides from the other bullpen. But yeah, obviously something of note. Take cover. Iredell County News and Weather on X is already calling people to take precaution, especially in western Iredell County here, Brad.
Yeah, and so that storm is moving into the western part of the county. I'm going to zoom in on it right now. So this storm, the rotation, if there is rotation left in there, I don't see any. To be honest, it looks like it's weakened a little bit. But here's the thing, this storm is still severe. It's still producing damaging winds and blinding rain. I'm sure that the delays on Interstate 40, I could tell you pretty much where they are. They're probably right in this storm right here,
exactly
in that width, because it is absolutely pouring in that area. So you're likely seeing a lot of delays in there. And that's why I said, if you can just postpone travel here for 15, 20 minutes, wait for this mess to get out of here, I think you'll be good to go. And
where
then
that accident is too.
You can get, basically out. So we're getting more photos in. I'm getting some pictures as well, some lowering. I've seen a lot of this. This lowering almost looks like maybe a wall cloud. It's hard to tell from stills, but because we're getting different viewpoints and angles from it, and this is what's so great about getting people to give us on-the-ground reports, kind of gives us a full point. So this is one I just posted. This is a video that I just got, and this was the tornado-warned storm near Maiden. And you see that lowering behind the pool there. Thank you so much for sending this in. I can't see all the way to the ground, but that was the rotation that had us concerned. Could there be a tornado back there? I can't tell from this imagery. I can see the rotation, but you can't tell it's touching the ground. But that is definitely an ominous sign when you see that showing up.
We are getting some folks weighing in on X too, and I know they've tagged you, Brad, as well as our main station account, talking about power starting to flicker. I believe this particular individual lives in the Charlotte area, but we know that we've already seen some power outages today. Yeah,
especially with the strong storms and the situation we've been watching in the southeast. Of course, that's why we're having you be weather aware throughout today and then into the evening. So it'll be interesting to see if we see Duke Energy power outages spike. I know that we spoke to them earlier about crews were already ready for a day like today. They make sure that they have crews on the ground and spread out through the area to make sure when those outages do happen, they can restore that power as fast as possible.
Yeah, definitely seeing a few hundred outages reported out of the Charlotte area. Some of these were reported, I'd say, fairly recently, maybe in the 6 o'clock hour or just before, with some estimated restoration coming later this evening. But we did, as you mentioned, Colin, hear from Duke talking about how one of their main concerns was going to be the downed power lines and how they really hope folks will treat any lines that they do see down around the area as potentially active lines. Yeah,
you have to. You just don't know what may have happened before that or what may happen after, of course. And as we always say, especially with some of the high water they're seeing in Watauga, if you see high water, please do not drive through it. That can make issues much worse. But it sounds like the rain that we're seeing, Brad, could cause an issue in terms of flooding.
Yeah, and we're seeing that in the mountains in particular, up in Watauga County. That's where we've seen most of the flood advisories. Watauga County just reissued a flood advisory, and that's up until 10 p.m. tonight for flash flooding. So this is the main line that we're watching. It's been moving northeast pretty quickly. This cell right here still has a lot of rain and strong winds with it. Now, over the next hour or so, I expect these storms will begin to move out. And so by 9 o'clock, you could see things start to get improved. So that's why I think the watch will likely be canceled early for our area. So we'll take a quick look at the radar again, and you can see on the radar that line is kind of slowing down, it looks like to me, kind of moving parallel to Interstate 77 right now, which is kind of interesting because it's taken a longer time to move through. We can go and see all the way down to Lancaster County, that line extends down there, where there's also a very strong storm. We've got to keep an eye on that one as well, near Heath Springs heading towards Pageland. That's going to move right on the Lancaster-Chesterfield County line. That could clip eastern Union County, parts of Anson, and Stanley County. So that's a storm to watch as well. In Charlotte, it's raining right now. I know we've got a lot of activities going on in Uptown. If you just wait this out, this is going to move through fairly quickly as well. It should be gone shortly. If we look at the velocity data, there's no rotation or anything too strong here. I am seeing some strong winds down towards the Ballantyne area, heading down towards Indian Land on 521. So watch out for some 30, 35 mile an hour winds there. As you move into Mecklenburg County, not much wind. And then the storm that's moving up towards Statesville. The good news here is the rotation looks much weaker than it did earlier. We had some brief rotation right here, Bradford Crossroads, west side of Statesville, but it is not nearly as strong as it was, I'd say, about 20 minutes ago. If I back the radar up, you'll see as we go all the way back here to around Maiden, I'm going to show you this. We'll go to about right here. This is when things got a little interesting around 6:30, right at the end of our newscast. We started talking about this right there, east side of Maiden. That's where we're getting the video of the lowering as well. And we could see that on our imagery from our Dallas camera. So the good news, guys, is we're not getting a lot of ground reports of damage, which is a good sign. That means we likely did not have a tornado touchdown on the ground, at least so far from what I hear. We did get some damage reports out of Burke County. They were straight line wind damage reports. I'll quickly pop those up. These are the local storm reports that have just come in. They've come in across areas in parts of Burke County. And just to highlight those, you could see we got trees down on a home on George Hildebrand Drive. No injuries. That was thunderstorm wind damage. That was one report we got. The other report we got, if I grab this, we'll query this one, southeast side of Morganton, Pleasant Grove, trees and power lines down on Ronnie Fox Road. That was also around 6:10. So that was one of our first warnings of the day that came out right there. And then if we show you this last damage report, trees down on Shuffler Road, and that was thunderstorm damage. That was right before 6 o'clock. So that was all from straight line winds. None of the reports we got so far have been due to what we think is a tornado.
And I was seeing that there was potential hail in the Dallas area, or at least from our Dallas camera. Could that have been?
Probably not much hail. I haven't seen any reports of that on the ground. Could there be pea-sized hail? Yeah, there's certainly the possibility in these taller storms,
right,
especially these ones north that are producing lightning. That means they're tall enough to get to the colder part of the atmosphere. But we're not worried about a huge hail threat, Colin. If it's going to be, it's going to be the small kind. Not enough that would cause damage. The number one threat right now is going to be wind, then followed by tornadoes.
Yeah.
Because those two, we've already seen damage for the winds. We do have tornado warnings, but we haven't had any confirmed.
Okay. I think people are wondering, especially what we saw in the southeast with those tennis-sized hail,
Nothing like that, thank goodness.
Yeah.
We came about an anniversary not a couple days ago, 2011, where we had baseball and tennis ball size hail here.
Yeah, don't want
that will pulverize your car and your house. The worry right now is wind and tornadoes. So that's why we want you to stay in sheltered location until this line moves through. Even if you're not in a warning, I don't want you outside. So this line that's moving through now, Mountain Island Lake area, the Statesville area, Huntersville, North Charlotte, Uptown, South End, down to Ballantyne, Weddington, Waxhaw, all the way down to Lancaster. I would stay inside until this passes. It's going to move through quickly, trust me, in about 30 minutes or so. This line, you can see how quickly it developed and how quickly it's moving northeast. I mean, this lines up almost exactly with what we were looking at earlier today, that we thought we'd see a line sometime between 5 and 8 p.m. And here we are at 7:13, and the line is moving right over the Charlotte area. Let me do a quick storm track, guys, just to show. So I want to give people some sense of when this is going to move through. This is moving northeast, so we'll do a quick storm track here. And you can see the track takes it through Huntersville around 7:13, which is right now. Mooresville, 7:24. China Grove, 7:45. Concord, closer to 7:37. So that Cannonballers game, it's probably going to be raining there in about 15 minutes to 20 minutes.
Wow.
So the lightning, though, threat will be before that. So I think it'll be interesting to see once they start moving people out of there. I moved the track over here. So that's the leading edge, but let's do something that I like to do often to kind of tell people when it's going to end. Let's track the back edge so you know when the worst is over. We'll do the same thing, but track the back side of this. So these times are when the storms will be done. So in Lincolnton, looking at the storms to be out of there at 7:19, Hickory, it could be 7:23, Charlotte, probably closer to 7:35-ish. And again, plus or minus about 5 minutes here. Don't read exactly the precise time. That's a rough estimate. There's a plus or minus on either side of that of about 5 minutes or so. So give yourself a little wiggle room there. And as it goes up towards Kannapolis, it'll be done at 8:07. So they're going to have a delay, but they're going to be able to restart this game. So you see this often. So there it is. I don't see the tarp out, so that's a sign that they're probably not in a delay yet. But the lightning could drive everyone off the field. And remember, these minor league games, you usually have somebody watching the weather. The umpire sometimes is the one responsible for this. So usually it's the first sound of thunder or the first lightning strike they see, and they'll get people out of there.
What are you looking at, Vanessa? You see?
I'm seeing if they're going back on the field.
I was just trying to see if they were pulling the tarp out. It looks like they're actually just re-grooming the baselines, from what I could tell. Yeah.
It must be.
They're still going.
I guess
that's the third inning at least.
Yeah, so interesting. I'm sure they'll be watching this as the storm continues to roll through. Watching I-40 as well. It's getting worse. I talked about a accident on the west side of I-40, and it looks like things are starting to get into the red type of category where we're seeing just backups. So if you are in that area and you are traveling, please be aware that I-40 between Statesville and Conover or Hickory, it is getting congested, I should say.
Yeah, it looks like that's going to be over near Sharon School Road, that exit right there, maybe just before it, if you're heading in the westbound direction, which it looks like that's where the primary delays appear to be.
Yeah, and now the Duke Energy outages have gone up a little more in the Hickory area. They've got about 563. So I'm sure that will coincide with what we're seeing with the weather as well that's moving through.
No, I mean, look at this shot here.
So I'm moving our camera. This is the back side of the storms moving through Dallas, and there's a beautiful rainbow now showing up in this area. So it is just passing the Dallas area. So this will give you an idea. That's rain. That's a rain shaft, but there's some sunlight coming down, which is creating that beautiful rainbow. But that's the back side of this storm kind of moving through. So that's why I said, if you can just wait this out, this is not a long duration, like I got to be hunkered down for more than, an hour or so. It's like 20, 30 minutes and this is gone. So there is a glimmer of hope, and there's a rainbow out there on the backside kind of showing you when the worst is moving through. So let's recap where we are right now. We're coming up at 7:16, and we still have one tornado warning in effect for our area. It's really, I would say, Catawba County is kind of out of the woods. This is primarily central and northern Iredell County. And there's actually two warnings in place here. There's a severe thunderstorm warning as well up for this area. And that severe thunderstorm warning has what we call a tornado tag. And what is that? That means it's a severe thunderstorm warning, but within the warning, they're going to say this storm could produce a tornado with little or no warning. And remember, almost all severe thunderstorm warnings have the potential to produce a tornado. So if you're under a severe thunderstorm warning, that means the weather's bad. You need to be in shelter, not maybe in your shelter location, but in your house, in the middle of the house. Don't be outside, and then just be watching. That's why we say be weather aware. The great thing about saying weather aware is that it's what it means. It means pay attention to the weather and stay tuned for updates on whether or not we're going to get a warning or something more severe out of this. So the warning is set to expire for Iredell County at 7:30. It includes a very tiny section of Alexander and a very tiny section of Catawba, but the storm is in Iredell County. So it's really central Iredell County, and the area that Colin was talking about on Interstate 40, that's the west side there. Highway 70 runs that way as well. That's the new part of 77 there. That's all been paved, and now I think it's 4 lanes going there. If you go west on 40 there, towards the Comporium building and then heading towards the car dealerships there, you're looking at a bunch of heavy rain and wind, and that's where the tornado warning is in effect right now. So that's going to be the area. If there is rotation, I'm looking at the radar right here. This is the indication on radar where there's rotation, northwest side of Statesville.
And to the west, the west of that, as you were just seeing, it seems like it's clearing up on I-40, but as that continues to shift, it does get a little bit more congested. So
next up, people in Turnersburg, Eagles Mill, Love Valley, Union Grove area, Olin, up there in the northern section, all these canola fields up here in the northern section, a lot of farms in the northern parts of Iredell County. You need to be seeking shelter right now. This storm has a history of producing rotation, maybe a possible tornado. It did have damage associated with it with straight line winds back in the Morganton area. So we want you to seek shelter regardless. Whether it's a tornado warning or not, go ahead and stay there. Just wait it out, because on the back side, I'm going to loop this whole thing. You can see this line is moving through fairly quickly. It's almost out of the Charlotte area and back towards the Dallas area. It's already cleared completely. So it's moving through quickly. If you can just wait it out. We've got about 11 more minutes on this warning. I don't think they're going to extend the tornado warning. It does not look like they'll do that at all, based on what I'm seeing. Starting to get some reports. I just got Chris Brown, our good spotter up there in Alexander County. They had some lines and some limbs down on a house up in Alexander. And we've also got some power lines down on Daniels Lumber Road, which is in Taylorsville as well. That's from the Central Alexander Fire Department. So definitely seeing some damage. And it looks like that's a little question. That could have been a tornado, because we had a warning just north of that. That'd be something to keep an eye on, whether that was tornado or straight line. Here's a live view over in Waxhaw. We've got some heavy rain rolling through Waxhaw right now. A little interesting view, because we've got, it looks like some sun off to the east, or the west, I should say, with the sunset to the right there, but it's pouring in the foreground. So that's what we're seeing. The rain comes in quickly and the sun comes back out, and the sun sets at 7:53. So we still got some time. There's plenty of daylight for the next, I'd say, hour or so, because you get a half hour twilight after the sun goes down.
Well, and we were seeing in the newsroom back in the 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock hour with the sun, that heats up the atmosphere,
Yep.
right? And that's why we see storms like what we're seeing tonight.
Yeah, we talked about this all day. Like, it's a day, I mean, as ugly as it was earlier, you hoped it would have stayed that way, because you don't want to see the sun. The sun heats the ground then heats the air, which fuels these storms. What they feed off of, their gasoline, is humidity and heat. Now, we had the engine, we had the storm, we had the front, and we had the wind shear, all the ingredients for producing tornadoes or damaging winds. What we didn't have is the fuel source, the gasoline to put in the engine. And once that sun came out, that was the gas, and it revved up, and this is what happened. You saw this line of storms develop, produce damage quickly. We saw these spin up tornado warnings. So far, we don't know for sure if it was a tornado.
And now, I mean, we see, of course, the one that we're focused on for our area, radar indicated.
Yeah.
In so many cases, Brad, you get the jump on this because you're watching the radar and you can kind of see the signatures, if you will.
Yeah.
I'm noticing the one that's in Surrey, Wilkes, that area.
Yeah.
That one is observed. So that means someone saw it?
Yeah, so that means a trained spotter. That means somebody who's gone through the advanced sky warning training, or a fire department official, or a police officer. So in that case, that means that's observed, and that means somebody who's trained. Now, oftentimes there could be mistaken identity, but somebody saw rotation or something near the ground that resembled a tornado, and because of that, you're going to see that observed tag put on there. So that one's a little bit more of a concern, because you got the confirmed tornado. We're also getting a radar confirmed tornado out of that, and what they're looking at is something called dual pole data. And I have to switch to the radar source, and I'll show you what we're talking about. Doppler debris signatures can show up, and we can see that debris show up on the radar. So we look at this storm. I'm going to back it up here and see if we actually see it. So yeah, right there, south of Elkin. So what I'm talking about is this thing right here. I know you probably don't know what you're looking at, but when you see brighter colors, that was a debris signature. So that's a case where the radar detected flying debris. And what I mean by flying debris, parts of trees, 2x4s, shingles, the radar is actually picking up debris. And so you actually can confirm a tornado off the radar. And so right there, yeah, that's why you're seeing the observed tag. I think it's more for the radar signature because they detect debris. So it wasn't a person, it was the radar detecting what we call a TDS. That's an acronym for a tornado debris signature.
Well,
so we see that sometimes.
Well, and at 6:46 p.m., Duke Energy is reporting an outage that started in that area. Wilkesboro, 1,000 people without power at this time. And that was right around the time we went on air.
Well, and you're speaking of Wilkesboro, North Wilkesboro, I see it from a photo that we have on X. It wasn't necessarily tagged by us, but the BP on Sparta Road, it has a partial collapse of the roof there.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm going to ask this person if maybe we can use this photo on air. But my goodness, it definitely indicates what you saw on radar that could be damage potentially.
Yeah, so I have a spotter, a chaser friend of mine. He's up in that area, Billy, and I'm looking at some of his drone stills from the Elkin area, and it looks like there's some rotation near the ground. It's hard to tell from his view, but he is chasing up in the Elkin area, and it certainly looks like something touched down in that area. So that's right around, that's the Elkin area, which is actually, let me show you the radar. That's basically going from Wilkes County into Erie and Yadkin County, kind of all three counties come together there. That's on 77. So if you're traveling north on 77, obviously Iredell County is where we have a warning, but even north of there, you're going to run into another tornado warning. So if you're traveling north on 77, or if you know somebody, hey, tell them to pull off to the rest stop and just get a coffee, maybe wait it out for about 20 minutes. I would not be going north on 77 from Lake Norman to the Virginia state line, because that looks to be a damage. So this is some of the damage we're getting out of Wilkes County. So yeah, that coincides with the tornado warning, this BP awning getting blown off. So we certainly potentially had a tornado touchdown in that area. Yeah. The fact that we had debris on radar tells me this was definitely a tornado in that area. So the one in our area is a little bit more questionable. I never saw it touch the ground, never saw debris. We didn't get reports. But the one in Wilkes County now, heading into areas around Elkin, which is right there. This is a tornado on the ground, it looks like, based on the damage reports.
Ooh, we got a new big outage reported north of Conover, just west of Highway 16, but east of